Okay, today I'm going to get all Adam Neely on your. There's a popular video online of a masterclass where Victor Wooten, God of Bass, asks the question,
how many keys are there?
Now, spoiler alert, he says there are 30, but is that correct? Well, again, spoiler alert, it can be, practically speaking, from a certain perspective, if you ignore something and you do something else and don't think of all the possibilities.
Experience a universe of possibilities.
And stuff like that. The problem is, there's a huge caveat built into that question that nobody seems to be mentioning. So let's get into it, and before I start, by the end of this video, you're probably going to think I'm a pedantic, pretentious theory snob. But that's cool, you know. So, first things first, there are 12 notes in a chromatic scale. So why are there not 12 keys? If you're told to play a lick in every key, you're going to play it in 12 keys, right? Well, yes, you actually are. So let's take a lick. In fact, let's make it even easier. Let's take a major scale and we'll play it in every key. So I might start playing it on C. Then maybe move up a half step to C sharp. Or is that D flat? Never mind that for now. It's obviously one of the two, but, I'm not going to play it on both, am I? That's going to mean playing it twice, just to say that I've played it in both keys. So we'll just call that C sharp stroke D flat. Then we move on to D, then on to E flat or D sharp, then E, then F, and obviously that's an F, not an E sharp, that'd be a silly thing to think. There's no such thing as E sharp, is there? And then we continue on, we've got F sharp or G flat, then we're on to G, G sharp or A flat, then A sharp or B flat, then B, and then finally A triple sharp. Sorry, I mean C. Okay, so that's working through the 12 keys, isn't it? Well, obviously not. I've played the major scale 12 times, but I didn't play in 12 keys. A sharp and B flat are totally different keys. D sharp and E flat are totally different keys. And D sharp and E flat are said to be enharmonic equivalents. If we allow for equivalency throughout the keys, then what do we get? Well, we're going to have C major, then we're going to have C sharp and D flat, and D, D sharp, E flat, E, F, F sharp, G flat, G, G sharp, A flat, A sharp, B flat, and B. That covers all of those alphabetic notes, but with the sharps and the flats. So that gives us 17 keys. Okay, so that makes sense. We've got 17 major keys, one for every chromatic pitch. So let's check the answer. Let's ask Vic.
30 is the answer.
Okay, so there's 30 keys. So we're 13 short. So why is that?
There's major keys and there's minor keys.
Ah, minor keys. What a douchebag. Can't believe I forgot the minor keys. Okay, let's add those into the list. So for every major key, we're going to have a relative minor. So for C major, it's going to be A minor. For G major, it's going to be E minor. Cool. So let's double up the keys list. So we had 17 of those keys that we worked out. So double it up. How many do we get? We get 34.
30 is the answer.
So what am I doing wrong here? Well, Victor is not dealing with scales built from each chromatic note. He's looking at key signatures. So let's have a bash at that. Key signatures specify the number of flats or sharps in a key. C major has no sharps or flats. G major has one sharp. F major has one flat, and so on. So how many note names can we add a sharp or a flat to? So in terms of the alphabetic notes, we've got A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's all of the notes that we're going to use in Western music. So that's 7 note names. So we could have an A natural, or an A flat, or an A sharp. And that's it, isn't it? So that's all we have. So we can have 7 possible sharps and 7 possible flats. That's 14 keys, and then good old C major with no sharps or flats. That gives us 15 keys. Add the minor keys, that's our 30. Hold on. Why are there 30 keys when we measured the number of key signatures there, but 34 when we measured every chromatic note? How is that possible? Surely they should be the same. You can only have a natural, a sharp, and a flat for every note, can't you? Wrong! We can have double sharps, double flats, triple sharps, triple flats, quadruple sharps, quadruple flats to a theoretical infinite number. I told you that I was going to turn into a pedantic theory snob, and here we are. So why are double sharps and flats even relevant to this? Surely doubles are going to be more appropriate for chromatic notes when you sharpen a sharp in a key or flatten a flat. Well, yes, they are more common in those scenarios, but scales can contain them too. What are the notes of the G-sharp major scale? Now that doesn't sound like an out there crazy scale, does it? G-sharp major. Well, what are the notes of the G major scale? G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp. So for G sharp, we sharpen all those notes. So we have G sharp, A sharp, B sharp, C sharp, D sharp, E sharp, and then F double sharp. Aha! Now we have a screwed up scale. We've got a B sharp and an E sharp and an F double sharp. Imagine learning a piece in G sharp. Every time you see an F, you have to play what looks like a G. You know, that's pretty rough. How about an A sharp major scale? Again, that doesn't sound like a crazy scale. A sharp major. Well, A major is A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp. So A sharp major is going to be A sharp, B sharp, C double sharp, D sharp, E sharp, and F double sharp, and G double sharp. That's grim. And this, my friends, is why there are 30 keys instead of 34. If you build keys from every chromatic pitch, you run into double sharps, and it's much more practical to look at keys containing only single sharps or flats. Doing this via those key signatures helps lead to a more practical, less confusing set of keys. In the key signature, you're only going to have, well, normally only going to have those single sharps or flats. So, case closed, 30 keys is the answer. Hold on, that's not the answer though, is it? Victor didn't ask how many nice keys are there, or how many keys are there containing only single sharps or flats. He asked how many keys are there. If I put my hand up and say 34, it's not my fault if some have horrible notes in them. No, we don't want to use them, and they're pretty rare, but that doesn't mean that they don't exist. And let's face it, if we're going to use double sharps or double flats in a key, what's to stop us building double sharp and double flat keys? In theory, how many are there really? And what does the circle of fifths have to say about all of this? Well, this brings up a bit of a common mistake that people make regarding the circle of fifths or fourths. Here's the popular diagram that you've probably all seen showing the circle of fifths. Clockwise, we have fifths. Counterclockwise, we have fourths. We work through the sequence starting at C, up a fifth to G, up another fifth to D, and so on. But check it out. When we get to F sharp, we also see the enharmonic equivalent, G flat, and then we swap to flats and on we go. That switch allows us to return to C because we can continue up, so we have G flat, up a fifth to D flat, up to A flat, then E flat, B flat, F, which finally completes the circle at C, and round we go again. But what if we actually wrote fifths all the way around with no enharmonic switch to G flat? You know, a proper circle of fifths with real fifths. Well, when we reach the F sharp, we would continue to C sharp, to G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, E sharp, and then B sharp, not C. Yes, I know B sharp is the same pitch as C, but it's not the same note. Just as C sharp and D flat are not the same note. G flat and F sharp are not the same note. They sound the same, you know, in terms of the actual wavelength, but they don't function the same. So yes, it might look weird, but A sharp up a perfect fifth is E sharp. It's not F. That will be a kind of sixth. Then a perfect fifth above E sharp is B sharp. It's not C. Whatever you think of the practicality, that's actually what it is. And this means that, you know, we continue on. B sharp up a perfect fifth, you know, to F double sharp. F sharp up a perfect fifth to C double sharp, and so on. From a theoretical perspective, the circle of fifths is actually infinite. It doesn't return to the starting point. It does from a pitch perspective, but if we're talking note names, it actually doesn't. Now remember, the circle of fifths can also be viewed as the circle of keys. The key signatures add sharps to a key in that order. And this is where the A sharp major key and the D sharp major key and all those other weird keys come into play when we need to use double sharps. We had the F sharp major key with 6 sharps. C sharp major would have 7 sharps. And that's where Victor Wooten ends. But what about G sharp major? That has 8 sharps. D sharp major has 9 sharps. A sharp major has 10 sharps, and so on. These keys are pretty pointless because we can always use another key with exactly the same sound and no double sharps. B flat major is always going to be a better option than A sharp major. It's 2 flats versus 10 sharps. There's no competition. Nobody would argue that A sharp major is a viable key signature. You will always use B flat major in its place, but that doesn't mean it's not a key. And there are potential practical reasons for using some of these high sharp keys. In composition, modulation to the dominant key, moving up a fifth, is very common. So if you're in F sharp major and you modulate up a fifth, you reach C sharp major. If you're in C sharp major, you modulate up a fifth, you're in G sharp major. Yes, the more sensible way would be to write in D flat and modulate to A flat, but still, some compositions are written in C sharp major. Just because it might be silly, confusing, or annoying doesn't mean it's not a thing. And after all of this, the real answer to how many keys are there is infinity. We can continue adding keys through the infinite circle of fifths, adding double sharps, double flats, triples, quadruples, and so on. It's a continual loop with ever-increasing revolutions of the circle, resulting in ever more sharps or flats, while retaining the same pitch. It's the sound of the keys will be exactly the same, but the note names will be ever more complex. Yes, those keys are ridiculous and practically unusable, unless you want to try to read notes like a C 10 to the 6th power sharp, but they are theoretically conceivable. And this is where the problem lies. The question of how many keys are there has an issue at its core. There's no criteria. It's not how many usable keys are there. It's not how many major and minor keys are there. It's obviously created to be a Gottya question. And it's a great Gottya question. It forces you to think about keys. And let's face it, that question has influenced me to present this video on enharmonic equivalence and the infinite looping of fifths. So really, after all of this, yes, when looking at the most user-friendly set of keys, the keys that we all play in or would want to play in, it's 30. 7 flats, 7 sharps, double it for the minors, and of course C major and A minor. But in terms of keys that you'll generally use for daily practice, working through a lick through the keys, it's usually going to be 12. And then in theory, the maximum number of possible keys, it's infinite. Do with that info what you will. Yes, I know I now look like a pedantic theory snob, but I'll see you next week.